Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Ys VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana, Inferno walkthrough. This video is quite a lengthy one, and we're going to be covering the mountain, the Pinnacle Trail, the Titus Primeval Forest. So, 3 different areas, and this is the only part of the game, in my opinion, where the fields get a bit obnoxious. The Pangea Plains are a little bit long, but it's quite selective, that area, but this one is particularly brutal, in my opinion. The spacing on the healing crystals is kind of just wide enough for this to feel like a bit of a gauntlet, and the environments are just long enough and just squeezed full of enemies to the point where it feels a bit much, in my opinion. It's probably nothing compared to the previous games, but so far I really felt like the game had a wonderful, graceful touch of having fields that lasted just long enough to give you a new environment, a new locale, some new enemies, some new drops, some new dialogue between the characters, and then you'd find a campfire, and you'd do a flashback, or you'd fight a boss, or you'd find a dungeon, or you'd find a castaway, and then go back to the village and then improve and things. Whereas this, it's just field after cave after field after cave after field after cave, and there's definitely this sense of a bit of a slog and quite the gauntlet. But once again, folks, you can save at any moment, and you can just restart from your save, so you don't have to worry about doing all of this on one life. So if you are getting hit and getting killed and what have you, feel free to just kind of drop those safety saves and get on with it. There is a lot to fight here as well. These fields are definitely populated by a ton of enemies. This creature here, this strange slug that fires the poison at you, it's not the most challenging creature, but there's a lot of them, and when you get a bunch of enemies firing at you from off screen, it can get messy. You have this spiky ball thing, which just seems to be an extension of that strange pink porcupine off the mountain, and then you have the big armoured fellow, who I would love to fight on his own, the Gelban creature, because I think it's level 37 and it's got some good drops, but there's a lot to come here, folks, without any of the restorative crystals, so I'm just going to focus on getting past it. And another reason why this is kind of annoying, so that's called a Bephael, which is interesting. Kind of a cool name for such a shit little turd thing with strange tentacles. They're level 35 as well, so they're not that decent to fight, but they are going to give you sturdy lumber if you need it, which is nice. This particular area, or a lot of the chests here have the Tektite ore, which I believe is the next increment of resource to upgrade weapons with, so that's pretty cool to pick up. And that's wonderful as well. The item limit on Inferno means that there are a ton of chests that will remain unopened, because I don't have space in my inventory for them, and I don't immediately try to use something to give space, which is unfortunate, but what can you do? I'm not a crazy completionist that needs all the chests in all the locations. But this entire environment at this moment is downhill, and moving downhill is probably the most awkward movement in the game, in my opinion. When you move on a flat plane, jump dodging repeatedly is the fastest form of movement. When you're moving against a slope upwards, you can jump and dodge at a much faster rate than you can on a standard horizontal plane. However, when you go downhill, there doesn't really seem to be a good way of jumping into a dodge to give you good momentum and good speed. Instead, it seems like spamming normal roll is quicker, and another method you can do is attack, then roll, attack, then roll. So you might notice when I was playing as Laxia earlier, she was making a noise before she was attacking, and it's because I was pressing attack and cancelling the move. And that can give you a decent forward momentum, but the problem with it is, if you're off the ground when you do it, she'll do a plunging attack instead of a thrust, and that makes it slower, because it stops you dead. But do you hear it just then? That was an attack cancel, to try and move a bit quicker. And then there's this, which I was tempted to do the character swap here to get some extra height, and then I remembered that I had Ricotta in my party, so I can show you a handy little technique to give you some extra height and some extra hang time if you've got her. And all you do is get off the area where you're quite high and you can jump across. There's an invisible wall here because it's a PSP game, and there's a lot of invisible walls on some of these environments, but get to the area where there isn't one. And you can try doing it with Lexia as I did just then, but that's not the best idea. And I could have edited this out, but I didn't, so I apologise about that, guys. But it gives you an idea of the thought process that went into. I should probably show the trick off, so if you go up here, when you jump, do an aerial attack and then cancel it with a roll, and she'll repeat this spinning move, and she only lowers a little bit, and you can kind of keep a lot of height. And it doesn't give us anything that we needed, but it's nice to be able to do that without the double jump that we're going to be getting later on. And if you're interested in infinite jumping, just Google it. The speedrunners are all over that shit. You'll be able to emulate it quite quickly because it's not difficult to do. It's just a bit intensive on your fingers because you have to press it quite quickly. But this is another example of attack cancelling to move faster downhill. It's a bit easier with Adol because he has a really, really nice forward slash. And that's a Diction. Cool name for that creature. I think it was level 36, so we can actually get some stuff off him. He drops Sturdy Bones, Strong Shells, and Beast Bones. One of the things I really love about this game is that it doesn't double dip on its resources. There are some games where, when you get the resource to upgrade, if you use it on one character, you are using the resources to upgrade another character, and it generally just hurts you in the end. There's a little bit of that in Ys, but each of the characters tends to have a unique item that's exclusive to their class that you have to upgrade them with. And I kind of like that. So, on that drop that creature had, the shells were for the yellow characters, so Ricotta and for Sahad. The feather, or something of that nature, will be for the people that have piercing, so Hummel and Laxia, and then the slashing people will be whatever's left over. And I think that's a really, really cool way of doing it. I also really like the Galban enemy, because when you break him, he loses his armour and his cladding, and he becomes like a crazy bareback mole rat dude. Which is a really interesting detail, because the first time through this game, I never saw that. I never fought that enemy. That was unfortunate too. Very dangerous. I nearly took a hit then. Luckily though, the flash move is incredibly powerful. And one of the aspects of Ys VII that I'm kind of not liking as much is the absence of flash move. Because in Memories of Celceta, or Celceta, however you say that, they implement it into that game. And that's actually an older Ys title as well. I think that might be a combination of those. Was it Ys IV? Those two games? Well, they went back and made. And I really miss it, I do. I miss the utility of it. And I just love the way they developed it in this game. I think it's perfect. They could make it a bit stricter, and I wouldn't mind. Like, if it was the timing of Ys VII, but it functioned the same way it did in this, I think that would be maybe the perfect way to balance it. Because if you make it ever so slightly harder to get, people won't feel as guilty perhaps using the invincibility. But as it stands, I think it's fine. Oh, by the way, guys, there's a huge dinosaur in here. He's quite high level. You can kill him, but I just never fight this enemy. I don't see the point outside of loving the combat and getting his resources. I already have all the moves I want, so fighting him at this point is just an opportunity to show off, and I don't really need to do that, because there's a mandatory fight against that creature later on when you play as Dana, and I'm going to show you a really cheesy way of getting him stuck for the people that don't particularly like having to learn patterns. And unfortunately, because the stuck method is so effective, I don't really know his moves too well. But I don't think he'll be too difficult to learn, because fundamentally, he'll have 5 or 6, and once you get those down, you'll be able to embarrass him. But he will kill you in one hit, guaranteed. That's the kind of damage he's rocking. We're also officially moving towards the much more interesting part of the game. So if you've come to this section and you're kinda not stoked on the plot, you don't really know who this dream girl is, who has anything to do with anything, yet she's on the front cover, and if you're not really digging the whole going to find castaways to find a way off the boat, the plot's about to escalate and get a lot more interesting, and by the end of it, it really does elevate into something quite interesting. I was surprised. It's not free from the tropes or the cliches of your standard JRPG, but I think they have enough character development, and I think they have enough empathy built by your time spent with the characters to really enjoy their struggle and the turmoil. Once again, it's not the best narrative, guys, it's not the best story, it's not the best characters, but it's enough to keep you engaged, to make you continue to enjoy the very visceral and satisfying combat and the fun RPG experiences. But I've read somewhere to get the secret ending, to get the true ending and the true final boss, that you have to complete all of Dana's side quests. I do not know if that's the case. I just did the ones I came across when I was playing, and I got the true ending without really having to seek it out or follow any facts or anything like that. If you are serious on getting the achievement for getting the true ending, on Nightmare or higher, you definitely want to double check on things like PlayStation Trophies and any kind of forum that you can find, maybe truetrophies.com, something like that. Maybe even GameFAQs or Reddit, just to verify what you need to get it. because as far as a walkthrough goes, I'm going to get you through the game and I'm going to help you against the true final boss, but I can't make sure you do all the arbitrary ticks, because then the video and the project itself would be far too long. And as much as I want to help people, guys, because I make these videos to help, this is a project that's quite risky for my channel, because it's not something I'm known for. It's not exactly a high priority or high profile game that people know all about, but I think it's an amazing game. I really love it, and I want people to be exposed to it so that they can perhaps get into the series and just kind of spread the love for Ys, because it's a title that I've been wanting to get into for a long time. But my experience with the game always kind of was a bit of a barrier to entry, and then this one was just the perfect storm of features that I really, really enjoy. And speaking of the gauntlet, we did get a crystal just then that enabled us to get a little bit of exposition, but we are immediately back into another field, and this is a very dense and very dangerous area of the game. This is the Primeval Forest. So in here, there's going to be blobs that are higher level than us, there's going to be those flying creatures, there's going to be a whole host of nasties, and they're all really close together. So you want to take your time and understand that taking a hit here and getting killed quickly can happen very fast. This is a level 37 Vivine. He drops warm lumber, rim flowers, Vivine bitters, and corn, which you don't really need too many of those. The warm lumber is going to be good when it comes to upgrading your castaway village, and then the green item, the Vivine particular item, that is used in a couple of recipes, but other than that, I don't see you needing too much. This guy here, he drops the stuff you want. The Beast Hide is going to be really useful for upgrading, so is the Beast Bone, and the Blue Feather is going to be for Laxia and Hummel. So those items there, one of them is for slash upgrades, one of them is for smashing, and the other one is for piercing, so definitely try to get a few drops if you can. And you'll notice the frame I swap away from Adol and come back to him, he's poisoned. And I didn't see whether or not it was me that got him poisoned, but I don't think it was, which is one of the unfortunate aspects of the game. So right now, Adol is dying, and if I swap back to him while he is poisoned, he'll die. So I'm not going to be playing with him now, and he is my main damage dealing character, so you're going to probably see me run away from the rest of these dudes until I can get a heal off, because both of the characters in my team, except for Laxia right now, are one hit away from death. And if you're not too certain how the game works, when the AI gets to 1 HP, they will completely stop attacking. They will become masters of evading, and they will never take damage. And this leaves us in the situation that we're in right now, where I'm attacking so fervently to kill these things, but nothing's dying because they're not weak to what I am. And this is when it gets really dangerous. So traditionally in an RPG, you'd go into your menu right now, and you would heal these status effects, and you'd heal your characters, and you'd go back to playing as Adol. But because I play these games like a stupid person, I don't want to use items. So I'm going to grit my teeth and just get through this environment until I can refresh my party. And it's definitely not the best way to play, guys. That right then, I tried to extend my jump by pressing square to do the aerial combo, but because we were going downwards, the game interpolates the input as me wanting to do the thrusting stab, and I lost all momentum. So instead, I'm going to swap to Ricotta, and I'm going to cover the distance like this. You will also notice I do not have the map on the controls to go and cycle through characters backwards. I can only cycle one way. That is a limitation of my control scheme, not the game, guys. You can cycle both ways, but I only ever cycle one way, which meant I put Adol on for a frame, and luckily the poison didn't tick, and thus he's still alive. But look how dense this area is. Lots of enemies, tons of the blobs just all together, tons of the flying creature that is very aggressive, but it has a very easy counter. And I can hear Ricotta doing tons of stuff, but I can't see her doing too much. She's attacking, isn't she? Interesting. You'll notice that Adol's not attacking at all. Adol is 1000% passive, but Ricotta has low life and she's being aggressive. There are weird things that the AI does in this game where, especially Ricotta, I've seen her do it a ton, she'll attack the floor in a jumping attack. And the jumping attack for her is unique because she bangs both of the chicken drumsticks, as I call them, into the ground, and it doesn't make her fall down. So she keeps banging them on the ground repeatedly and she doesn't do anything. And if you're attacking an aerial opponent, it misses them. So you get these bizarre moments where she just bangs the ground and doesn't achieve anything. But in the cutscene just then, there was a creature that has lulled one of our characters away into its nest, and we're going to be in a mandatory fight coming up against a bunch of little critters, which is then followed by a fight with a bunch of velociraptor creatures. And this is not a difficult fight, but I want to stack as much damage as I can, because it's going to enable me to end it quickly. So you'll notice I went in my menu just then to try and eat a piece of food to boost my damage, but I didn't have one. So instead, I pop on the ring that blinds me, and I immediately open up with my extra skill. You generally never see me use the extra skill outside of bosses, because there's almost no real need to do it outside of liking the attack or wanting to get things over and done with. But in this particular fight, when you get clipped, you have to go all the way outside the cave and go through all the dialogue again, and I didn't want to make a mistake and have to do that, so instead I just got rid of everybody in a wonderful nuclear blast, and that's the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.